The laughter had gone on too long. It started sharp, smug, a kind of collective sneer wrapped in arrogance. But now it dragged into something strange, like a pack of predators trying to convince themselves the prey really was that weak. The Threxian High Council floated in their obsidian chamber, pulsating with biolight from a captured sun core, their tentacles draped over neural thrones shaped to amplify dominance. The loop on the central dais played again. Human colony designation, Nix 47 burning. Children scattering into ash. A final, unanswered scream fizzled into static as the feed restarted. They had played it 27 times. Kestel exhaled a bubbling wheeze through his spiraled gills. 7 patrol ships, and they couldn't defend a single dirt rock? So much for Earth's proud reach. The others shrieked with approval. Tentacles slapped stone in rhythm. One even tried to mimic a human voice begging for help, which sent another wave of guttural mirth echoing through the domed hall. It sounded like a celebration. It wasn't. Not really. They sent no response, hissed Ambassador Uvrix, twitching his head unnaturally. No cries for justice, no counterstrike. Not even a diplomatic ping. He leaned forward. It's cowardice, I say, or perhaps abandonment? That line landed wrong. The laughter didn't return. Threxians didn't deal in superstition. But even among the most ancient castes, there were whispers low and fragmented about what it meant when Earth said nothing. When the humans did not scream, did not rage, did not speak. The silence had outlasted protocol. 48 cycles and not a whisper from the Sol system. No trade signal, no political condemnation, no threat transmission. Just ... absence. A scout vessel returned early. It was small, shaped like a tear and pulsing with its pilot's anxiety. It hovered at the edge of the chamber, quivering. My lords, the voice crackled. Long-range distortion picked up objects entering Kuiper void space. Initial readings suggest multiple heat signatures. Large, spread formation. Too cold for standard mass, but too symmetrical for debris. The room shifted. Stealth? Kestel asked. The scout shook. Negative. They're not cloaked. Just ... coming in slow? Kestel rolled his eyes. Diplomatic outreach? Uvrix sneered. Human ambassadors are always late. Vral, the oldest among them, didn't laugh. His voice was a rasp, dragged through centuries of war. They don't send ambassadors. They let silence rot the air. Until breathing feels wrong. Something in the chamber tightened. The air, the light, the posture of every creature in it. It felt like a storm crawling under their skin. Then the playback glitched. For the first time, it froze. The children on the screen were mid-sprint. Mid-scream, and then the feed just stopped. Static. No loop. No signal. The archive was corrupted. Not hacked. Deleted. Remotely. Something had reached back into their memory and cut it out. Vral leaned in. 48 cycles without a word from Earth. That's not cowardice. That's war fermenting. Kestel snapped. Enough. Let them come. We destroyed a nothing colony. What do they have left? A few thousand ancient ships and propaganda. Slogans? They send threats, they do not act. He looked to the scout. Any fleet signature? The scout looked ill. Confirmed mass. Approaching 700,000 separate vessels. No one moved. Repeat that, Vral said flatly. 700,000, the scout repeated, voice cracking. All human tagged. Advancing in silence, perfect formation. No emissions. No open signals. Silence again. But this time, it was different. It wasn't the silence of dominance. It was the silence that animals feel when they realize they're not hunters anymore. Just meat. Impossible, Uvrix whispered. Their entire fleet couldn't. It's not their fleet, Vrall said. He raised a single tendril toward the war table. Look at the ident streams. There's no military designation. Number. Navy codes. These are civilian vessels. A pause that might as well have lasted a lifetime. They sent civilians? Kestal muttered, stunned. They sent their citizens. Vrall's voice was low, like he was trying not to awaken something. Listening. Another ping. The scout's console blinked red. 3 Threxian border cruisers had just vanished. No explosion. No debris. Just gone. An entire patrol erased, the scout said, barely above a whisper. Nothing left. No contact. Not even black box trails. They're not coming to talk, Vrall murmured. They want us to know they're coming. That's why they didn't cloak. That's why they let us see the count. Another data packet appeared on the central dais. Origin. Recovered core from NYX-47, the human colony they had destroyed. 1 file. Auto-translated. The name blinked red. Cinder. Protocol. Subtitle. If the stars fall, humanity must rise without command. They planned this, Vrall said. A civilian response network. Automated activation. Full mobilization without Earth command structure. That's why Earth hasn't spoken. He turned to the others, eyes wide. They didn't need to. Another scout entered the chamber. This one was younger, pale, shaking. The humans. They've begun broadcasting one message on loop across all sectors. The room froze. What message? Kestal demanded. The scout took a moment, then played it. A human voice. Calm, male. Deep, no anger. Just a single line on repeat, in perfect rhythm. We were never unarmed. We were just waiting. No one in the chamber breathed. No one moved. The Threxians had once considered themselves above fear, above hesitation. But the shape of this moment didn't feel like politics. It felt like being watched by something that had already chosen how it would kill you. Something old, patient, and now awakened. Vrall stepped back from the table, voice hoarse. This is not retaliation. This is extinction with choreography. The feed continued in the background. 700,000 ships. Lights off. Engines humming at impossible harmonics. No transmission. No signal. Just motion. And that, Vrall whispered, was before Earth even responded. It was supposed to be a harvest day. That's how the footage began, at least what little remained of it. A blue sky with twin moons. Human kids chasing wind kites along terraced farms. The kind of peace colonies were built for. The kind Earth hadn't known in centuries. Until the sky went black. Commander Elias Wren watched the last known video feed from NYX-47 on a cracked console deep inside Orbital Defense Relay 17. He didn't blink. Didn't flinch. He just sat there, helmet on his lap, eyes locked on the screen as the feed played out. The sky darkened. The wind kites burned. And the screaming started. Behind him, a young technician whispered, "Sir, they didn't even fire back. Not once." Elias didn't move. They couldn't, he finally said. They didn't have weapons. That colony was a civilian hub. Agricultural support. No military infrastructure. We didn't think we needed to protect it. The tech's voice trembled. Why didn't we? Elias exhaled through his teeth. Because we thought silence made us safe. He stood, finally, body stiff from hours in the chair. His uniform was plain, armor sealed but worn nothing fancy. The name tag read, Wren, E under it, a single phrase etched in fading ink. Hold until the void screams. Elias walked past the rows of consoles toward the viewport. Outside, the stars shifted, some pulsing, others moving. Human ships, thousands, more than he ever thought possible. They filled the black like a second galaxy forming. Civilian liners. Mining rigs converted into mobile missile platforms. Freight haulers retrofitted with spinal cannons. Even old pleasure yachts armed with scavenged plasma torpedoes. The chaos of it should have felt weak, sloppy. But it didn't. It felt like purpose. A voice buzzed in from command overhead. Commander Wren, incoming burst from Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Elias didn't look away from the stars. Patch it. The voice was female, calm, clipped, military, but something deeper. Something heavier. All forces operating under Cinder Protocol. This is Admiral Royce. Effective immediately, the Federation suspends conventional chain of command. You are now acting under total decentralized retaliation. Engage at will. Protect no asset. Prioritize psychological saturation. The feed crackled, and then a final line came through. Let them feel what they've made. Wren said nothing. For a moment, then he turned toward his tech. Get me the rough count of confirmed volunteer warships in Sector V9. The tech blinked. Last update said 49,000, but that was 12 minutes ago. Wren nodded. Then, double it. He started walking. Get my armor sealed. And prep the Nemesis for launch. We're not waiting for formal orders. Another voice chimed in private, encrypted, familiar. Wren tapped his comms. This is Wren. A low chuckle answered. Still playing soldier, Eli? The voice belonged to Captain Reese Cato, Wren's oldest friend and by far the most unhinged tactician ever rejected by Earth Command. Reese, Wren muttered, please don't tell me you joined this madness in a tugboat. No, Reese replied smugly. I joined it in 4. And they're all wired together with salvage jump drives and one nuclear slingshot. I call it the Fury Snake. Wren couldn't help it. He laughed. Short, dry, real. You're insane. So's Earth, Reese replied. That's why we're going to win. Outside the relay, the formation was tightening. Civilian squadrons falling into lattice formations. Human A is coordinating fleet movement via decentralized synaptic bursts. No command tower, no flagship. Just raw, living rage duct taped to unity. Threxians didn't understand it. That was the beauty of it. Their culture was hierarchy, perfection, orchestration. But humans? Humans were chaos with teeth. Sir, the tech called out, we're receiving a live feed from the front line. One of the lead scout ships engaged the enemy. Elias nodded. Put it up, the screen flickered. A grainy feed, static, then a view of stars, then ... nothing, just black. What am I looking at? Wren asked. The tech frowned. Sir, that's not space. That's one of our haulers. It's so big it's eclipsing a moon. The feed zoomed. Missiles igniting. Hundreds. Thousands. One volley after another. No warning shots. No declarations. Just judgment.avd spike. A single Threxian dreadnought blinked into the frame regal, glowing, twice the size of the human vessel. It launched 3 plasma lances. The hauler didn't dodge. It took the hit, and then it detonated. A controlled explosion, fission through magnetic layering. A suicide strike, planned. The dreadnought vanished in white light. Signal gone. Mass gone. Just ... erased. The silence in the room deepened. They used their ship as a casing, the tech whispered. There was a star core in there. Who does that? Wren stared, jaw tight. People who didn't expect to survive, but came anyway. Suddenly, every come across the relay lit up. Not orders, not panic. Just one shared message beamed across all human vessels. 4 words. You took 1. 7 burn. Reese's voice crackled in again. I assume you saw the fireworks? Wren didn't. Answer. We're not going for a win, are we? Reese paused. No, we're going for memory. Ren nodded slowly. Then let's make one worth keeping. In orbit, ships ignited. The first wave moved forward, formation breaking on purpose. It looked disorganized, but every vector, every speed shift, every blind spot had been calculated for maximum. Psychological impact. This wasn't strategy. It was vengeance turned mathematical. And the galaxy had never seen humans fight when they weren't trying to survive. Now, they weren't trying to survive. They were trying to end a lesson that would outlive the stars. They tried to surrender. That was the first mistake. The Threxian forward fleet, positioned like a net around the ruined rim worlds, had been watching the human formation expand for hours. At first, it had felt laughable. Civilian vessels, refitted mining ships, pleasure craft strung together with visible welding scars. It looked like desperation, like the last wheezing breath of a dying species. Until they saw how the humans moved. No central command, no broadcasted orders. But every ship adjusted as if thinking with the same brain. When one vessel shifted, the rest compensated. When a hauler split off, 10 more curved to match its arc. It was hive behavior, only faster, smarter, more aggressive. And it didn't stop. Admiral Kraz of the Threxian Siege Circle ordered the standard broadcast, full frequency offer of surrender, the usual intimidation package. Glorious warnings, threats of destruction, demands for kneeling. The humans didn't reply. They just kept coming. Kraz growled through his voice spines. Send it again. Admiral, his second officer said cautiously, I don't think they're receiving us. They are, Kraz snapped. They just don't care. There was something wrong with the silence. It wasn't defiance. It wasn't arrogance. It was worse. It was disinterest. Like the humans weren't even insulted. Like surrender wasn't even an option in the conversation anymore. Then, one of the human ships blinked out of view. Not via hyperspace. It just dashed. The sensors didn't even catch the energy spike. For 3 seconds, it was gone. Then it reappeared inside the Threxian formation. It didn't fire. It didn't move. It pulsed once, one deep, sonic vibration. And exploded. Kraz's ship shuddered as the blast tore through the command line. 5 Threxian cruisers dissolved into ash and metal splinters. The shockwave was surgical, aimed directly at comm relays and internal command nodes. There were no screams, just silence again. Was that intentional? The second officer whispered. It was an offering, Kraz said hollowly. They're telling us we don't get to surrender. AVD spike. The humans had weaponized despair, turned grief into programming. The detonation pattern wasn't chaotic, it was mathematical, calculated for psychological maximums. Every explosion was preceded by a pause, a flicker of a child's voice from the Nyx colony. It was the same voice each time. Where did everyone go? Then light. Across the fractured Threxian line, smaller vessels began retreating without orders. Kraz tried to re-establish formation. He broadcasted override commands. No one responded. Fear had cracked the neural network. And fear in the Threxian mind was virile. Meanwhile, the humans didn't chase. They didn't gloat. They advanced without emotion, without reaction. A perfect wall of quiet fury. On the Nemesis, Ilias Ren stared at the fleet composition. 300,000 ships in range now, more were coming. He tapped into the silent relay. Reese, he said quietly, you still with me? Barely, came the answer. I just lost 2 of my tugs. Took out a destroyer with them, though. Blew it into a perfect spiral. You'd have loved it. Elias didn't smile. We're breaking them. Reese coughed into the mic. They're not trained for this. They know how to win, not how to bleed. The tactical map updated, several Threxian squadrons abandoning posts entirely. No fallback lines, no reformation. They were scattering. One of the human ships transmitted something new. A symbol, an old one, a single white boot print. The one left on Earth's moon in 1969. The message was clear. You thought we forgot what we were. Elias switched to the local comms. All strike teams, prepare for final wave. No hails, no mercy. Don't take prisoners. No broadcasts. They'll understand what this is. He closed the channel, hands trembling slightly. Not from fear. From memory. His sister had lived on Nix-47. Her last message was a shaky video. She'd been helping load children onto a shuttle. She never made it off the surface. Elias had replayed that clip every night for 3 weeks. Now the only loop playing was death. On the battlefield, 2 Threxian frigates collided trying to escape. No human fire. Just panic. Kraz watched from his cracked command ship. He turned to his officers. Retreat. Now, all systems. But, Admiral. Now, they turned their ship. Started jump calculations. Too late. 6 human ships converged. Not with lasers. Not with missiles. With claws. Massive mechanical. Grapples ripped from dismantled asteroid harvesters latched onto the Threxian hull. Not to destroy. To hold it in place. Elias watched from orbit. He zoomed in on the live feed. The Threxian ship began transmitting again. Over 400 languages. Screaming for a ceasefire. Begging. And in that moment, Reese's voice came through again. You know the funny part? He said. What? Elias replied. We're still holding back. That line lingered longer than the silence. The Threxians had mistaken Earth's restraint for weakness. They forgot that silence isn't surrender. It's the inhale before the fire. The galaxy fell quiet. What had started as a wall of silent ships had become something else entirely, an echo stretching across star systems, bouncing back not as sound but as fear. Whole species cut off their feeds. Others redirected patrol routes. Even pirate clans deleted long-standing logs of human trade data. There was a pattern now. 1 colony destroyed. 7 systems burned in return. And Earth still hadn't spoken. The core of the Threxian command had retreated to the storm axis, a fortress system surrounded by 6 suns and impossible gravity wells. A place no human ship could reach without folding into ash. At least, that's what they thought. Admiral Vral stood on the outer ledge of the defense citadel, watching the stars tremble in a way they shouldn't. He hadn't slept in 7 cycles. He no longer dreamed when he did. What haunted him wasn't just the destruction. It was the silence before it. That terrible, focused quiet before an entire fleet blinked out of existence like it never mattered. Not even as prey. They won't come here, said his subordinate, tone wavering. They can't. This region kills FTL drives. It would take 100 years to reach us sublight. Vral didn't answer. He was too focused on the stars, because one of them just moved. He didn't call for alarm. He didn't shout orders. He simply raised 1 claw, pointed at the trembling light in the distance, and said, Count it. The sensor tech stammered. Sir, that's not a star. That's a formation. 80 ships. All dark. All drifting under radiation shielding. They're using the sun's interference to blind our sensors. Vral finally let out a breath. They're already here. Within minutes, the Axis grid began to fail, not from attack. From inside, human code buried in decades-old comms. Earth hadn't sent just ships. It had sent software. Logic bombs sleeping inside Threxian satellites for years, waiting for a silent ping. The humans didn't break into the system. They were already part of it. All 6 suns dimmed. Artificial shadow screens blocking their energy. Power dropped across the Axis network. Half the turrets froze. Docking clamps refused to disengage. Entire dreadnoughts locked in place by their own AI turning against them. And then the first human ship drifted into visual. Not war-colored, not glowing. Just matte black, scarred metal. One engine flickering like a dying heartbeat. They weren't here to win a battle. They were here to erase the memory of one. Vral sent the last order he would ever give. Send it. Send the apology. Record it. Broadcast it. Across every channel. Across every race. The transmission went out. I am Admiral Vral of the Threxian High Order. We accept responsibility. The attack on Nix 47 was unauthorized, dishonorable. We extend surrender. Full, unconditional. Please, the feed cut out. Not from damage. From decision. Inside the Nemesis, Elias Reen sat quietly in the command chair. The ship shook under stress. The sublight jump to storm axis had nearly broken the hull, but it held. It always held, like he had. His armor was faded now, scratched, dented. No medals. No unit badge, just a single boot print stitched on the chest. He watched Vral's apology on loop, not with joy. Not with rage. With silence. Reese came through Combs, voice quieter now. You gonna answer that? Elias didn't speak. They surrendered, Eli. Elias leaned forward slowly. Not enough. Reese was quiet for a beat. So we finish it? Elias closed his eyes, thought of his sister. Of the colony, of how long Earth had stayed quiet. Then he spoke. We never asked for surrender. We asked for silence. And then the final order went out, not through command lines, not through Admiralty, but through the entire fleet. End it. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a deletion. No war cries. No dramatics. Just physics and vengeance. The humans had weaponized patience, turned ancient mining tools into ship-sized drills, converted civilian vessels into reactors. The gravity wells of the Axis system were turned against it, collapsing in sequence. Suns bent inward, one by one, until the system folded like paper set on fire, and the last thing Vral saw before his screen went dark was a single human standing on the hull of the Nemesis, arms folded behind his back, watching the end without a word, a symbolic image. Signature left for history. No empire was built after that day, because no one wanted to share a border with Earth. Because now everyone knew. It wasn't Earth's silence that made it dangerous. It was what came after it.